your moods are
Right.
changing and you've got brain fog and you're forgetful and you're achy and you're tired, it's not because like you're old or it's life.
Right. It's October 18th from 12 to 6 p.m. It's Dermaline Day. Join the experts at Dermaline Med Spa for their biggest beauty event of the year. Enjoy Botox for just $10 a unit, specials on microneedling and salmon DNA facials, and enter for your chance to win $5,000 in free services. It's your day to glow, only at Dermaline Med Spa. Learn more and RSVP through the link in today's show notes. Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by Morgan Moreira, founder of everybodyOM, a movement and wellness space dedicated to helping women feel strong, balanced, and confident through every hormonal season. Morgan blends science with soul, guiding women through perimenopause and beyond using holistic fitness, mindset, and lifestyle practices. Her mission to help women understand their bodies, not fight against them. So without further ado, let's welcome Morgan. Welcome, Morgan.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
Yes, and I can attest for Morgan's work. She's so knowledgeable, and I was able to train with her in September at the NAC, and I just love everything about what you're doing and your mission.
Thank you so much. It was awesome training with you too.
Yeah. So before we get into all that, to start each episode, we have our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that's been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So Morgan, what is your drinking wine of the week?
So I have been sober for about 13 years.
I
So
love
what I
that.
do is I'm a bougie glass kind of girl. So this week I'm using my bougie anthropology glass with some yummy sparkling water in it.
That is a beautiful glass. And I do feel like the glass makes such a difference of things. Like when I was pregnant, I would just put something in a nicer glass. And you're like, this is kind of like the same thing.
Absolutely.
That's
I'm fancy, I'm cute, I'm all about it. And
awesome.
when it's the holidays, I make amazing mocktails, but that's my glass of the week.
Yay. I love that. So what is your WHINE of the week?
Oh, well, I have been training for the New York City Marathon, and in my long run on Saturday, I hurt my my LCL pretty badly. And
Ugh.
so I've been able to run this week, and I have a big whine about that. It's
Yeah.
my big one.
And the marathon is in just a couple weeks too. So that this is like crunch time with the long runs. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And so I just don't want to be injured. And if I am, then
Yeah.
like my goal is finish. When I started training, it
Yeah.
was finish in 4 hours. Now I'm like, let's finish.
Let's just do it. Yeah. Finish it up.
So
I interviewed a couple weeks ago a very fast runner, and her full marathon was like as fast as my half marathon. And I was like, okay, well, I love that you are so fast, and I could never do that. But and then she like was so sweet. She was like, it's just about finishing it for your own self. Like it doesn't matter how fast you are. It's just about how you finish. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Marathon is a long distance, and whatever the time is, you can do it. Yeah.
absolutely. I tell women all the time, they'll go, I'm not a runner or I'm not a good runner. I'm like, if you're running, if you're jogging, you're a runner.
Right.
It's official.
So what's your win of the week?
Ooh, my win of the week. There's a lot of wins, but I think that the greatest thing would be I asked a lot of clients for some testimonials, and getting to read them and seeing the impact that I made through what they wrote was just huge, huge. So for me, like I like to be of service. And so when I can support other people in their wins, that is my why. And so it was a really good feeling to have.
And I feel like sometimes you don't see that or you don't know that because you're in a specific, time frame or time crunch of you're working to work out or, whatever it may be, and you don't get to see that. So that's amazing that you were able to see it on paper, everything. That must have made you feel awesome.
Yeah, it was more about their mindset and their life changing
Hmm.
than because we can measure the physical body. We can do that. We can
Right.
work on it. But it wasn't the primary highlight, which for me was just so nice.
I love that.
Mhm.
So I always like to ask my guests, what's one significant challenge you've successfully navigated shaping your journey to where you are today?
Um, well, I would say losing myself to find myself.
Mhm.
So I worked for over 10 years in New York City as a sales executive at a high level in the fashion industry. And right before COVID, it just wasn't filling my cup. And I had to let go of the title, the money, and it was like a lot, right? And I it was part of my identity. It was how I identified as a young woman. I was my title, I was my money, and, I spent, I think, like, a few years building where I am today without knowing that that's what I was doing. So from the
Mhm.
outside, everything I did probably looked like floundering or random. I worked on a farm for 2 seasons. I learned how to grow my own fruits and vegetables. I took an herbal medicine course. I learned how to teach yoga to, like, all marginalized communities, and so all these things, right? And I made, like, no money, and I was an EMT. I went back to school. I thought I'd become a doctor, and then I was so good at chemistry. I love chemistry. I was so good at it, they asked me to teach chemistry, and so I taught, like, I was a TA for college chemistry, and that was where I fell in love with teaching. And so but in those moments, I felt like such a loser. I really did. Like, that's my shame word with myself, if I have one. I felt like such a loser in those moments, and like I was so behind my peers and so broken, like there must be something wrong with me, right? And I think that's where so
Yeah.
many of us, and I just had to keep going. And I I did. And I didn't have an opportunity to follow my dream growing up. I didn't grow up with money or resources. I was on my own very young, and I was self-made because I needed to be. And so to let all of that go and be like, I'm just Morgan, and there's nothing
Right.
behind that. I'm not what I do, I'm not what I earn. But on the other side of that, I have such a sense of self-worth and of service and purpose, and my purpose is wildly clear. And so
Right.
that is something that I most hold in my heart, that I'm proud of.
Yeah. To reinvent yourself after kind of finding success is like really scary. Really, really scary.
Mhm.
So you are a trainer as well, and obviously loving to stay active, but what's your favorite way to stay active?
I love lifting and strength training. I love it. So if I have a gym, I'm lifting and I'm strength training heavy. If there's no gym, I'm outside and I am on a mountain somewhere. Like, I am climbing something, I am hiking something. So, yeah, but I love strength training.
So important. And I can't wait to talk a little bit more about that and how important it is. But before we do, how does maintaining your fitness contribute to your mental health and in life?
Well, it is, right? Because I think of fitness not just as my workouts. Workouts are one part of fitness. I need to be mentally fit, spiritually fit, emotionally fit, physically fit, all of those things. And
Hmm.
so I have a whole system for how I live my life to stay fit, because I cannot pour from an empty cup. I cannot be of service if I don't have anything to give. So
Hmm.
I wake up super early, but that hour is spent, I call it like coffee with God. And I'm a spiritual person, not religious, but spiritual in that way. And literally just journal and I talk to how I understand God. And I have my coffee and I take a daily inventory and I meditate and I pray about just like help me be of service. And that keeps me spiritually fit, which
Hmm.
I need to be throughout the day because there's a lot going on in the world. And with people, especially in a service industry, you can meet a lot of people that aren't always kind or seem difficult. And you just, in the world, you do, right? But
Right.
I do that because it helps me be someone I'm proud to be, regardless of what's going on in the world around me, which is always my
Hmm.
goal, right? I don't care how other people act is not my responsibility, but how I act is, and that sets me up for I will eat. I eat enough calories. I eat enough protein. I make sure I'm fueling myself. I eat very well because I consider it not because I want to stay this way. It's an act of self-love, right? Everything I put in my body is either my body is like, "Yes, I know this, good stuff," or my body's like, "Oh my gosh, what is this? I gotta work extra
Right.
hard," and it gets agitated. So for self-love, I nourish myself, right? Fitness and exercise, I have a whole routine. I always say to people, like, it's your program. So I don't just strength train. I have gentle cardio, I have high intensity cardio, I strength train, I do bar, I do yoga. And so I nourish myself in that way as well. And my family, my loved ones, I write a gratitude list every day. I stay in touch with my friends over Zoom. So it's community, all those things. All those things
So important.
exist. I also love an afternoon nap and a slice of cake. So that
I
also helps stay
did
fit.
I love that as well. You gotta have all the balance in all different ways, which is amazing. And especially the
Yes.
gratitude list is so underrated. Like I actually just was teaching with my students about gratitude and how every morning I wake up and I say three things I'm grateful for. And before I go to bed, I do the same thing. And it's like just your perspective of life is very different because the last thing you're thinking of and the first thing you're thinking of is happiness rather than, oh my God, I got to get up or the stress. And it's so important. So it's good to hear that you also do that. And um, yeah. All right. So let's get into you. So you talked a little bit about yourself in the fashion industry before you became more health focused industry. Can you talk a little about before, what was your own health mindset or life like before you kind of discovered this passion for hormonal balance and holistic
Yes,
fitness?
for sure. I Fitness was always my outlet, strength, fitness, and I struggled with mental health issues growing up. I had an eating disorder till I was 26 years old. Those things all affect, my development. But I got sober when I was 23.
Wow,
And
that's young to
I
make that choice.
it's young. Yeah, I was burning that bridge down fast. Like, heroic. It was not like a heroic act because I'm so evolved. It was like very necessary. Yeah, yeah. But when I got sober, I've been doing and practicing yoga since I was 13. My mom was a runner my whole life growing up. And so I was always around healthy food, the gym, yoga. I didn't play sports. We couldn't afford. I did some cheerleading, but it didn't really work. So when I got sober though, at 23, I loved doing ecstasy.
Okay.
Sleep cycle. So and obviously I couldn't anymore because sober. And
Right.
it was when Soul Cycle was first opening in New York City, and that's where I'm from. And it was a dark room with strobe lights and blaring EDM music where you were just in the beat. And
Mhm.
I fell in love with it. I went and because I could, it was the same feeling for me. Everything
Right.
shut down. All the voices turned off. I felt like I was going to die. So I couldn't literally be anywhere else but my own
Yeah.
body in that trying to survive. And then I always had maintained my yoga practice. I
Mhm.
wanted to run to my yoga studio once and I realized that I couldn't run more than a city block. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, I couldn't. I just wasn't in shape. I failed gym in high school multiple times, right? For the record,
God.
which is hysterical.
Yeah.
And so I got a gym membership. All of the money that would have been spent going out, living this
Mhm.
life, fancy stuff, I invested in my health and wellness. And I had such networking in my industry was so important that
Mhm.
what I did with clients or friends instead was I would invite them to like these new fitness classes or
So smart.
health events. And I got a holistic health professional, Vincent Pedra, who like was on Oprah and wrote a book. And I I like just like all these different things going on. And I learned a tremendous amount when I was originally in college, I'd wanted to be a doctor and help marginalized communities. I wanted to be a pediatric oncologist, which is working with children who have cancer because I had such a sense for these, you don't deserve it, right? Something goes on and they've done nothing to deserve those consequences, right? And so I wanted
Right.
to be absurd. But my senior year, things fell down. I went to transferred to FIT and I was like, I'm going to work right away. And I just started working.
Yeah. Okay.
So fitness was my release in my personal life. Trainers, doctors, nutritionists. I came out of my eating disorder at 26. It was the hardest work I've ever done in my life through cognitive behavioral therapy.
Wow.
I have had that eating disorder for 13 years. It was bad. And I just like kept learning because knowledge is power. And
Mhm.
when I left my job in the fashion industry, I wanted to go back and study to be a doctor.
Mhm.
And so I went back and I had to redo all my undergrad plus work. Fully studied for my MCATs, was ready to take them. I became an EMT because I wanted that experience. COVID hit while I was certified to be an EMT. So I was working in New York City as an EMT. And I
Wow.
think
Wow.
that I just started, everything just happened, right? And then I didn't plan on becoming an instructor because I didn't want to ruin my happy place. But one of my yoga teachers was doing a trauma informed teacher training, which was
Okay.
all about serving marginalized communities. So it was women and people in larger bodies. It was the elderly community, like, because ageism is so real. It was menopausal women. It was Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Like, how are we serving these special communities that are ignored by lots of traditional care systems? And then I started teaching something I'd been personally doing forever. And I met women and I learned and I studied. And I think I was just early, right? So, like, now it's trending and everyone's like, oh, menopause, 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 and hormones. But I think for myself, I love women. I'm such an advocate for women and learning that half of our lives are spent in a state of peri or post menopause. It
Mhm.
can start as early as your late 30s. It is dismissed. It's half of our population, right? Like, it is understudied, under researched, underfunded, and women are shamed. I was like, absolutely not, because my whole fitness message has always been like, I don't care how big you are, how small you are, who you voted for, what your religion, like, I don't care. You belong here. You will belong with me always. And so it just like happened. And then I'm crazy type A. So I got like 100 different certifications all around women's health, women's fitness, personal training for women specifically, all the stuff, menopause coaching, another one of those. So, yeah, it's a long
Oh,
answer,
wow.
but it hasn't been a straight
Yeah.
line. I think the context is
Yeah.
important.
Of course, absolutely. That I mean, I am fascinated by just because I went to college for teaching. I went into teaching, and that's kind of now I'm like branching off to do more stuff. So I love hearing people's journeys just to see like how did you go from that to this? And everybody sees the after of it, but doesn't understand that there was all these wiggly lines before.
So many L's.
Yeah, which is great. You can't succeed without a loss, you know? So something that you call your philosophy is where science meets the soul. Like, can you kind of unpack that a little bit? What does it mean in your
Yeah.
day-to-day work?
So I sell a service, not a product. And what that means is it's not about what, it's about how. The science is what. And we're all told all day long what we need to do.
Hmm.
Eat this, don't eat this. Do your strength workouts 3 times a week. Wear a weighted vest. Walk on an incline. Blah, 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 blah. Have a sleep hygiene. Have a morning routine. Don't use your phone before bed, right? We're told what all day long. And there's scientifically backed research behind all of it. But how, right?
Hmm.
And what
Yeah.
happens is we're in this world where it's, oh, well, take these supplements and take this product and buy this thing because this thing's really going to help you. No, like soul, like what in you? Your power shouldn't lie in a product outside of you. It should lie in yourself first. Then you bring in your products, right?
Hmm.
And it's hard work. So the soul is, why are you eating that way? And What are your beliefs around food? What's your relationship with food? Okay, how can we slowly introduce new habits that are sustainable, right? Because my goal is that my clients do not need me in however long it takes them to build their habits and their lifestyle. And then they're just like, "Hey, can you write some workouts for me?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
because I'll create a problem.
Yeah.
But I want them to change their own lives, then introduce anything outside of themselves that they might
Hmm.
need to supplement in. And that is my like eloquent way of saying, we need to look at you, not a product.
That's
And
so
and
important
talk
and a
about
great way to
how.
think about it. Right. Yeah. Because you can't just give something to someone and then be like, yeah, you can just take the, again, like they say, there's no magic pill. You need to figure out how to do it.
Or magic instructions. Like doctors are me. I'm like, let me support the doctors because you'll leave a doctor's office, but how? People
Right.
go, oh, I eat. I'll tell them. Okay, but how is that real in their life? And that
Hmm.
answer is different for every single woman. And I can't tell you how many people are like, just tell me the supplements or just tell me the workouts to do. And it's like, no, we got here because there's beliefs, there's patterns, there are roadblocks that exist where that actually will never change unless we do that hard work first.
Yeah. Well, speaking of hard work, let's talk a little bit about hormones and peri slash regular menopause, because that is a scary time frame to come into for a lot of women. So the transition is often kind of shrouded in mystery or shame or fear. What do you think one of the biggest misbeliefs that you see women carrying about hormonal changes?
God, because there are so many. I think the biggest one would be that it's all in their head. Right.
Hmm.
And let me get really specific on that. You do not need to be a certain age and having hot flashes to be in perimenopause. There are Mary Claire Haver lists, who's a leader in this field, lists about 70 symptoms.
Wow.
So, and they're all related and they're all connected. So if you've got stuff going on, it's not in your head. It's not just part of the process. It's not that you have to wait until some magical point in time and some symptom checklist to know that you're have your doctor believe you're in perimenopause. Like just trust yourself in your body. It's not all in your head because then you can get relief sooner.
Right. Yeah. And if you could tell every woman one thing about hormones, one thing maybe you wish everyone understood, what do you think that it would be?
Okay, so it's like I said, my biggest thing is like it's not Amazon Prime, right? It doesn't
Right.
happen overnight. Don't just like work out for a week and sleep well for a week and it's fixed. It's a process. That's one. Number two, because I know you only asked for one, so I'm going to give two. Why not?
I
Hormone, the phrase, like when you hear someone say balance your hormones, to be very clear, hormones regulate each other and are regulated through different balances and imbalances. So your
Mhm.
hormone levels are constantly changing and cycling and getting high and low and reading off of one another. So there is no magical happy place where everything is just balanced and in one level. You're going to have changes, cycles, and your body, that's what hormones do. They are responders.
Mhm.
So it's not like a steady, happy, once and done. Okay, cool, they're balanced. That's not real. Like they're
Right.
gonna go all over. They're supposed to do.
Yeah. And they're just ever changing, which is, I feel like, the other thing. Which, to kind of go to my next question, your services, you offer metabolism and hormone support workouts customized for peri and post menopause. How do they kind of differ from the standard strength training? Like, what adjustments or mind shifts are necessary for your clients?
So how do they differ from standard strength training? So every woman there is no standard strength training. That's what I would say. So what level of weights are they picking up? Are they picking up heavy enough weights? That's the first thing.
Right.
The second thing is slowing down, usually. So, strength is meant to be challenging and slow. It is not meant to be cardio. I love a cardio strength class, but that's not a strength class, right?
Yeah.
You're building strength, but you're not doing traditional strength training. And it is working with their bodies. I am very big on pelvic floor health and corrective exercise. And so we have a lot of imbalances, especially women that have had babies, given birth. carried kids in one arms. You're literally human Sherpas for like 7 years of your life at minimum. Um, there are imbalances in muscle groups. There is absolutely trauma to the pelvic floor. As estrogen levels drop, the fascia and like tension within your pelvic floor starts to change and drop. That affects how you do squats, how you do deadlifts. And many women have not been taught, I mean, unless they sought it out, to go to the gym and deadlift 150 pounds, right?
Right.
But can they and should they be able to? Yeah. Like, and they probably are in their life without knowing it, but in poor
Yeah.
form, that's gonna hurt their back. And
Hmm.
so there's a lot of that. And it's also the biggest thing I see is people choose one group, right? So I
Hmm.
have certain women that are like, well, I do yoga and I do Pilates and and I walk on the Stairmaster. And that's great, but you also need high intensity interval training to keep your heart healthy and in a certain place. And you need heavy weight lifting to keep your bone density up. I meet other women who they do so much group fitness cardio classes and they get so frustrated that their bodies are not changing that they go harder and harder and harder. And we really only need to be doing HIIT workouts. Like after a certain age, if you're not a professional athlete, like you only need to be doing HIIT workouts once or twice a week. Like you do
Right.
not need rate that high more than that, or it jacks your cortisol levels up so high. And
Hmm.
our bodies are like, my body might be like, oh my God, I'm in a pump class. Like I'm doing great. But my nervous system thinks I'm being chased by a cheetah. My heart rate's
Right.
170. Like, and when our body is in fight or flight, we hold on to fat. And your body is
Yeah.
not primarily metabolizing fat when you're in a heart rate zone 4.
Hmm.
And so it's slowing down and getting in touch with their bodies and picking up weights that they're not comfortable or they're not used to or that they don't think they can, right? And so that is it's balance. It's a personalized program based on where they're at.
Yeah, and you taught me that as well. Like I was out there doing so many hit workouts a week, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gaining weight. I don't understand why. And then you were talking to me about the zone 2 heart rate. I'm like, I can't even stay in the zone 2 heart rate. Like it's really hard to stay there because my heart rate gets high. So, but anyway, I think that is great advice, and I know that I learned that from you specifically. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to slow down.
Yeah. And so stress, sleep, nutrition, movement, it's all interconnected, as you kind of just explained. But for women in hormonal transition, which lifestyle factor do you find is most commonly underestimated or neglected? And how do you kind of
Nutrition,
help them bring this? Yeah.
percent nutrition. Yep.
Yeah.
I find more often than not women are really under eating. It's a big
Right.
problem. And they undereat and then they when they do eat, they eat not great foods. So there's a lot of restrictive eating and then eating poorly when eating. Women are not eating enough protein and they are not eating enough calories. And again, if your body doesn't have what it needs to build muscle and you're working out like a regular person, right? You're not going to build muscle because you don't have the
Right.
stuff to build it with. And your
Hmm.
body's gonna wanna hold on to fat. So, yes, if you're on that show alone and you're starving yourself in the wilderness and you have nothing for 4 months, sure, you'll a bunch of weight will come off. But if you're eating and then in a deficit and eating and then in a deficit, it puts your body in a bad place. And that's just I see so many women that don't know that they're really starving themselves, and they are. It's the that's, like, a really hard part of my job.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely is. And I feel like, again, so many women are taught to like just eat like 1,200 calories and run, and then you'll be fit. And that's just kind of not where bodies are meant to be.
I eat like 2,500 calories a day, right? And
Yeah,
I'm a thin, muscular person.
right,
So it's about fueling your body from a place of nourishment instead of trying to look a certain way and restricting.
right. Yeah. So let's talk about resistance. What are the biggest kind of internal and emotional barriers that you think women face when trying to heal their hormones holistically, and how do you coach them through those?
Well, a lot of people want change and either are unwilling or I believe everyone is capable. I've
Hmm.
also been told by certain people believe that no, not everyone is capable, right? But they're they want the change, but they're unwilling to make the change, to do the work. Um,
Yeah.
they do it piecemeal. So they take what they like and they do the things that they feel okay about, and then they don't really do the other stuff, right?
Hmm.
And if they cannot there is a big chance for someone that does that, if they're honest with themselves about it and they're honest with me about it, we can find ways to break those habits. It'll just take a longer time, but we'll
Yeah.
find ways. But if someone is in like a state of resi- true resistance and denial and just like wants what they want and they want to do it their way, like I mean, I thank God, like being sober in a 12-step program has taught me so much about humility when I want change. And it's like someone said to me, like, if your plan worked, you wouldn't be here. Right.
Right.
Or like, if
Yeah.
you want to bake the cake that I'm giving you, you need to follow my recipe. Right.
Yeah.
Or like I
Yeah.
was told once, this isn't a self-help program. Right. Because like if it worked, you wouldn't come to me. Right. It would be working like, and it's usually, it requires them to set boundaries. It
Hmm.
requires them to set
Yeah.
boundaries, prioritize themselves, and risk having people in their family, mostly, not approve, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
if you've
Hard to do that.
attached your worth to your if you've attached your sense of worth mostly to other people's experience of you, response to you, and validation of you, setting boundaries that risk having those other people, places, and things not validate you feels like a loss of self and worth. And so it is a very scary thing to say, no, I don't want to eat at that restaurant, or no, I'm going to pack my own food, or you know what, kids, like you do a lot of activities. Or telling their husband, like, you have to watch. It is so hard.
Yeah.
So hard.
Yeah, a lot of people need, it's hard because again, women are raised to be people pleasers a lot of times. So it takes a lot of time to get out of that mindset and mind frame. And it is really hard.
It's
And
uncomfortable.
yeah, so
It's not comfortable.
right. And we do have, dark days. Women do, whether it's like a moment of fatigue, brain fog, mood swing, doubt creeping in. How do you personally get back to the center in those times? And do you have any rituals that you lean on?
So I have that whole toolbox I talked to you about, my whole like fitness and wellness toolbox. I pull levers. I pull levers that I know work for me. And again, it's not a quick fix, right? So some of them will work, some of them won't, but I just over time I use enough of those tools to trust that one of them is going to work eventually, and I go through the discomfort trying. I also sometimes allow myself to feel how I'm feeling, and I don't think I need to change it right away. I don't hot potato my feelings. If I look at it, I journal about it, I feel what I need to feel unapologetically, and I prioritize taking care of myself, just like I would if like I had flu or pneumonia, right? I need to if I'm in a bad place, I must prioritize my health, and I think of it all as my health.
Right. And so what do you think is one science-backed strategy or hack you love to use with your coaching? Kind of for women entering that perimenopause phase that they can start with today.
Journaling. I
Yeah.
think journaling. Yeah, because it's it allows you to get really honest with yourself, and it allows you to document, and you can find a lot of clarity,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then you can talk about it with someone if you need to. But taking the time to even just sit and write is very
Right.
cleansing. And also like eat food. Not like go out and eat a sleeve of Oreos, right? But
Right.
usually if we're not sleeping, if you're hungry, you're angry, you're lonely, or you're tired, it's gonna put you in a bad place. So it's called
Right.
HALT, right? So like check all four. If any of those are off, yeah. If you feel like garbage, you're in a mood. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Usually
Hmm.
you're one of those 4 things. You living in fear? If you're not, are you living in fear? Is there a fear and an anxiety? And ask yourself, take the time to keep asking yourself questions. And if you don't know where to start, ChatGPT literally will be your best therapist in the world. You just go
Yeah.
on to ChatGPT and you're like, ChatGPT, I'm having a breakdown. I don't know why. I need you to be a therapist. And ChatGPT will literally be like the best therapist and help you
I
get in the
do
problem.
like using it to like call ChatGPT my little assistant where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is happening. What do I need to do? And what did we do without ChatGPT? I do love it for that kind of stuff for sure. Like my little friend.
It totally beats the Dewey Decimal System of
Yeah.
the life that we had in the
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. So many women don't even realize they're in perimenopause until symptoms kind of start to take over their lives. What are early signs you wish more women recognized, and how can we start tuning into those before it's full blown crisis?
I think a lot of early so frozen shoulder is a huge indicator, which a lot of
Okay.
people don't really noticing their bodies change. So their distribution of weight. Many women think that they're gaining weight or they're, getting fat. Really, what happens is when you start to get estrogen, right? Before we start our menstrual cycles when we're younger, we have very rectangular bodies. Estrogen rises before we get into our womanhood, and then our bodies start to change the distribution into our breasts and our booties. So when we lose that estrogen, everything gets more rectangular again. And that's why
Right.
women feel weight in the center of their body. Estrogen and progesterone is the first thing to drop when you're starting perimenopause. First, your progesterone drops, then your estrogen drops. So if your progesterone is dropping, progesterone is like nature's Xanax, basically.
Mhm.
Dr. Sarah Guthrie described it best, and she called it nature's Xanax. And it's like where things that used to not bother you and bring you joy start to really annoy you and you find yourself not wanting them, right? You feel unmotivated. You feel unhappy. It is very much an emotional experience and it's often faux treated and band-aided with antidepressants. So women that are perimenopausal are more, I don't want to give a random number because I don't know the scientific actual number, but if I were to Google it, it would be, it's an astonishing statistic of how much antidepressants women that are actually in perimenopause and just have low progesterone and low estrogen are prescribed.
Wow.
I think as soon as anything starts going on with your body, and there's a few things, you're extra achy, right? So inflammation goes up. Estrogen naturally helps us with our inflammation levels. We start to metabolize glucose differently. So we have that brain fog and that forgetfulness. And you can look at PET scans of women's brains that are in menses, that are perimenopausal and that are postmenopausal. And the lighting up of it and how your brain is using glucose
Wow.
is wildly different, right? And so don't think this is why I said it's not all in your head. If your moods are
Right.
changing, and you've got brain fog and you're forgetful and you're achy and you're tired, it's not because like you're old or it's life. Like
Right.
it's just your hormones. It's like a diabetic that doesn't have insulin, right? Like we don't need to stigmatize it so much. Like you don't make the stuff, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
So get your hormones tested too. Doctors often like to say, oh, we don't test them because they go up, they go down, they go up. Yeah, they do, but within levels, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
how much you have of progesterone, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and testosterone. Testosterone's not the best indicator, but like you get low on it. But
Right.
those, like, they go up and down throughout your cycle, depending on what stage of your cycle you're in, with a lot of peaking pre menses and during ovulation, right? But if you're, so I'm in early onset perimenopause, right? And I'm 37. My estrogen levels are lower than some of the 55-year-old women that I work with whose blood work I
Wow.
review. It is below range.
Right.
So even though, yeah, it can live in this world, if you're below range, it doesn't matter what day of your cycle you're on.
Right.
Like, get
Yeah.
that, get it tested. And if you can't get it tested, I'll get it tested for you. I can order labs, right? And it's money, but
Right.
get it tested and find a doctor who will listen to you. to
Yeah.
test what you
That
need
is
tested. Anyway, that's my very
yes, and that is very important to find a doctor that will listen to you, which is hard. So, we already don't have enough time, and then you got to find a doctor that's going to listen to you, which is even more stressful when you're already stressed. But so if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing on how society views women in perimenopause or menopause or aging, what do you think that change would be?
so for me, it would if I could wave a wand that they're no longer worth anything, because that would
Hmm.
change every there's so much support to help women get pregnant. There's
Hmm.
endless support and doctors and like, what can we do to get them, like, let's help you have your baby, all of it. And the second that women are no longer of an age where they can reproduce or work in the work field, right? So if they're 65, 70, because postmenopausal isn't just women in their 50s, it's for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are totally disregarded. So a lot of the women I work with, yes, I work with all different ages, but I work with a lot of women in their 60s as well,
Hmm.
60s and 70s, who feel totally forgotten and ignored. And they don't care about what their bodies look like, but they care about their health. I think that if there was more care for women outside of the fact that we can be wives and baby makers, what do we look like at the end of our lives? That would be a big thing, because we're one of the only species that survive post reproductive age. It's like
Right.
us and narwhals and some whales, I think. The narwhal was my favorite thing to remember, but
Yeah, like, that's
it's almost no
okay.
species survive past reproductive age. And it's called the grandmother that we do because our wisdom helps future generations survive.
Mhm.
And it's an evolutionary thing that started taking place. And we also are around to help raise grandchildren within the family unit. And it is
Wow.
very rare, right? So we need to learn that there's value in that and we need to care for those women. That's
Yeah.
my
Oh my
wand.
gosh, I did not even I've never thought about that, and it's so true that, well, we need our older generations, but I didn't think about the other animals that don't live that long. Um, so kind of along a similar line, but what's your vision or dream for a world in which women everywhere reclaim their hormonal power? What would your daily life look like in that world?
So I don't know how it looks, and I don't know if a change is even seen,
Mhm.
because it's a belief system, right? So the soul, not the
Yeah.
science, right?
Yeah.
The how. It's in how women perceive their worth. It's in how women validate themselves. It's women having knowledge over their body, right? Knowledge is power. So the more you know about your body, the more autonomy and power you have to make decisions about your healthcare, right? Feeling comfortable saying no to an event, feeling comfortable not wearing makeup, feeling comfortable being in your own body, or not being mom of the year, but being a good enough mom, right? Or a good enough wife, or not being the perfect daughter and the perfect sister and the perfect this and the perfect PTA. Like, there's so much on prioritizing all these serving things and so little on, well, what do I actually need as a human being to thrive in my life so that I can show up for all these people that I love, right? And so does it look different? No, I still think the PTA mom's going to be a great PTA mom, and the woman that's working at a billion-dollar company is still going to be that woman. But how these women experience life, I look no different than I looked however many years ago. I present no differently. My belief system about my self-worth, my body, my health, my value is entirely different, and it
Mhm.
changes my experience of the world around me. And I have a profound sense of unshakable serenity because of it. That, that is, and so I guess the only thing that changes is like we stop getting prescribed a bunch of things to fix us
Mhm.
and stop buying a bunch of stuff to validate our sense of worth because we already have it.
Yeah.
That's
So
my,
for yeah.
yeah.
So for the women who are listening who feel overwhelmed by, by all the conflicting advice of how to be the best person that they can be, diet culture, fitness, trends, everything. There's so much information, especially with social media. It's like, your algorithm comes up with all the different things. But what advice do you have on cutting through the noise and just like finding your own path? Like, not, you don't have to, like I said, do the 1,200 calorie diet running for 30 miles every day. How do you cut through all that?
So I would say work with me, right? I'm like, I'll help you
Uh-huh.
because most of what I do in the coaching part is actually just like 30-minute Zoom calls every week where we go through
Hmm.
everything, we set micro habits and goals. So that's my like, work with me. If you haven't figured it out on your own, get help from
Hmm.
someone who can help you figure it out, right? It's not like I don't empower women. I help women reclaim their power, right? So they already have everything they need inside of themselves. They need help reaccessing it. They don't need to be given anything, right? So outside of that, that's the deep work. There's like three quick questions. Verify the source, right? There are so many
Right.
people out
Which
there
is hard.
claiming so much right now, and I even see it locally around us. Like all of a sudden, people are giving like perimenopause workshops, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I did
Hmm.
this so many years ago, and I went through it." It's like, right, but what certs do you have? Like, what is the source?
Right.
Who's the source? And then ask simple questions. Right? Is what I'm eating food?
Hmm.
What are the ingredients? If you can't pronounce it, it's not food, right? There's your best nutrition. I just gave you $800 nutritional advice. Eat food. Don't eat things that are not food. It'll
Right.
change your whole life. And like go through the process because, like I said, I wouldn't have a career if there were five things that every woman could do that would fix it's a process. It's a journey. It's going to take a long time. You have to be committed to yourself to start making those changes.
Yeah. So how do you see your work evolving over the next 5 to 10 years, helping women in hormonal health? Like, are there new modalities, tools, or ideas you feel you're gonna be especially drawn to explore?
Yeah, for sure. In terms of like right now, I'm wrapping up a peptide certification because I think peptides are just the absolute future. I take them, I use them, I love them. They're at a weird place in our health system where you know they're not all of them are FDA approved. There are a lot of research going on, but it's a huge thing and it's amazing. So I'm going through that. I would say on top of that, like in the longevity field, it seems to me most of the voices in that space right now are men, right? And they're amazing
Yes.
men. Thank you,
Right.
great, but it's all men. Like if you look in the longevity space, there are very few women's voices. There are very few studies done on women, right? There's not a lot of money in the field. Most tests of all products are not done on women because our hormones change frequently. Test results come back inconclusive, and companies will not fund tests that will come back inconclusive, right? So there needs to be a change there. How do we get there? So longevity, peptides, and then one thing that I don't see changing because we do have AI and we have all this stuff coming up is like my entire business model is about relationships. It's about human connection. And that is something that is irreplaceable, right? Because
Yeah.
people right now, like I said, you can get an app where it just tells you what to do. So, like, what's the difference
Yeah.
between what I design and people's traditional strength workouts is like, I'm not giving you workouts, right? I'm giving you a
Right.
program. So, yeah, that's there. And there's so much other cool stuff out there. I mean, I'm reading all about right now gene expression and genetics in women called like the XX factor. We can play with our genes. We actually can control our genetics based on like our choices. We have it's gene expression. So we'll have genes from both sides, right? Which one gets
Right.
expressed is a lot is very, very frequently, aside from certain factors, determined by our lifestyle.
Hmm.
And
That's really
so it's wild. I love it. And so stuff like that. That's
Yeah,
where
so
I'll
cool to
that's
learn about. So you have given so much information. So I want to ask you one more question. So you work every day with women navigating one of the biggest transitions in their lives, what do you hope this generation of women, maybe even women of our age, will do differently when it comes to understanding and honoring their hormones?
Want them to understand that they are the CEO of their own life, right? Your life is your business. It is you run it. And so run it like you would anything else, right? Businesses need to have an inventory. They need to know what's working. They need to know what's not working. They need to take the time. They need to invest so that they can thrive, right? They are in charge of their lives. Too much victimhood. I never say, I really try never to say, I have to go do this thing. No, it's a choice. There might be a
Right.
consequence if I don't do it, but I'm choosing the thing over the consequence, right? Like I pay bills because I don't want my product shut off. I don't have to pay bills. I could very easily not pay bills. I would lose my home and my products and my so, like, oh, I don't have to pay bills. I don't have to do anything, actually. So, reclaiming that choice is massive.
Mhm.
Women often take credit for the things they do that they're not proud of and attribute their success to following rules. I followed the diet, but then I ate a bunch of cookies. Okay, no. You ate healthfully and made choices honoring your body, and then you like we need to that's why I hate giving people just like rules to follow. That's
Right.
so right? Take
Yeah.
credit for your wins.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
it's a lot, so many layers. I'm very verbose, but it's who I am.
Well, that's perfect. I think that's a great place to end it. So that was, oh my gosh, I learned so much from this episode, and I know the listeners have as well. So that's going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Running Wine Mom. Morgan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your light with us today. I know everybody is walking away feeling a little more empowered and a lot more informed about their body. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you so much. I love talking with you. I could talk about this
Yeah.
for hours anytime.
We're gonna have to have you come back on. But yeah, so thank you everyone listening for spending time with us today. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. You can follow me on Instagram at the running wine mom underscore. And Morgan, where can the listeners find you?
Morgan Kathleen Bean. So it's Kathleen with a K and Bean with a B, like a
Perfect.
string
And
bean.
I will link, yeah, and I will link all of that in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of womanhood. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday.